Welcome to Kew Gardens Station. It is a very dark and wet evening and I'm about to get on the District Line, head to Sloane Square. This is the one and probably the only outing I've got this Christmas, aside from actual Christmas itself. Try and make the most of it, and then we're going to basically shelter away pretty much until we get to see family.
Welcome to another episode of Toby's Stupid Vlog.
It is the Swatch Club Christmas party at Gingerbread City at the Museum of Architecture. It's put on near Knightsbridge. Good morning, I'm in Ham. I've decided I'm leaving the house because it's just been too podcasty and I've reached a point where I'm just getting frustrated. So I got myself a little bit ahead over the weekend. I did 3 episodes pretty much before lunchtime yesterday, Monday that is, so that I bought myself a little bit of breathing space. There's 2 incoming this afternoon and then there's another one that is currently being described as it would be nice if it was done, which is a clever client way of saying we know we told you that you didn't need to do it by the end of this week, but we'd really want you to. So those 2 that come this afternoon I will have to finish. The other one we'll see how I get to tomorrow. I have board papers to read and all sorts of other things to do. So yeah, I just needed some fresh air and to do some actual Christmas shopping in person rather than just on large corporate websites. Well, that was slightly annoying, but there we go. The National Trust shop at Ham House is closed today. Never mind. That wasn't the reason I came out here anyway. I came for my food things, really. So, let's carry on. Getting some fresh air, clearing the mind. That's what I think the reason you should go for a walk is. Actually, there's a couple of reasons. One, as I think I've explained before, exercise does reorder your brain slightly, so it clears sort of pathways. It calms the mind and allows you to think more clearly. But secondarily, at the moment, because the days are quite short, it's really quite important to get outside if you can, because just a little bit of sunlight does really help boost your vitamin D and vitamin A levels. And vitamin D is particularly important in helping fight infection, which obviously at the moment is about as important as it's ever been. So yeah, I really would strongly suggest you try and go for at least one walk a day. It will make you feel slightly better. So, and if nothing else, it will stop you doing the thing that's annoying you. So that's always a good thing as well. So I've been to the Swiss bakery and I bought some cake and some crisps and some Rivella and all sorts of Swiss things, and I feel good about that. Unfortunately, at Hansel and Pretzel, which is the German deli, the card machine is broken, and who carries cash anymore? No one. So I'm not quite sure why they're open, if I'm honest. The number of people who've got cash on them must be really reduced, especially post-pandemic. But yeah, so that's a non-visit. So we're going to go to good old-fashioned, traditional English Sainsbury's. Hi there. It's Thursday, and it's been a difficult week. I think that's probably a reasonable summary. I'll kind of try and talk briefly about the three things that have made it so difficult. One of them is arguably trivial. The other two, less so. So Sunday was the last race of the Formula One season this year, which we could watch live because it all came down to the last race. And if you're not a fan of F1, that's fine. You won't care about this, and you've probably seen it in the news anyway, and you still don't care. That's fine. I'm just giving you my feeling, not any facts at all, but how it made me feel. That race made me feel sick, genuinely sick. I thought it was just the most arbitrary of weird decisions, and anyone who's watched F1 for any length of time will probably agree that that was an unprecedented decision. And because of that, it doesn't feel right, it doesn't sit right. Even now, it feels wrong. There's one other thing about it that I can't shake, and it's been bothering me for about the last 2 or 3 weeks. There was a quote in the press by Max Verstappen a few weeks ago, and he talked about how he felt that everything had been made more difficult for him. And I find that unbelievably short-sighted. It just shows such a lack of awareness. A young, wealthy, white man complaining about how things have been made more difficult for him, when he's well aware that his primary competitor was a black man from a not particularly wealthy family who had to work 4 times as hard just to get himself in the car in the first place. That doesn't sit right. It shows a lack of awareness. And so that, combined with the result, made me feel ill. It just felt like there was a big lack of sort of spiritual justice, let's say. Anyway, that's a trivial matter relatively. It doesn't affect my life greatly. Except that the second point is we were due to do a special Red Bull episode on Max Verstappen this week, regardless of the result. As he won, it was a slightly more detailed work, but I didn't get any of the bits until yesterday at lunchtime, and then they weren't arranged in any sort of semblance of order, and it was an enormous job to pull it together in the time frame required, which was frankly at that point 2.5 hours. So that was very stressful, and I had to cancel a last minute board meeting, which would have gone down very poorly, and I don't feel particularly good about. I'm paid for that work, and more than that, I feel a social responsibility with my position on the board, and it having to cancel it because of something beyond my control is maybe perfectly acceptable, but it just felt wrong. Like someone had basically forced my hand into that, and I was not happy about it. And that Programme finally was made, sent off, and then this morning all the changes were done. It was delivered just after midday. Really scraped that one home, to be honest. And I'm sure everyone will be very pleased with the programme itself. I'm not, because I think it makes light of the situation that occurred on Sunday's race, and I am not comfortable with it. Anyway, whatever, I get paid for that, so it's very mixed feelings. Anyway, the last point, probably, if we ignore Omicron for now, because everyone has talked about that and it's here and, you know, whatever. I've got my booster jab and, you know, at the moment it doesn't change our life too much, and I hope it doesn't, but it's going to be difficult over the next few weeks. So the last point, the house. Before I get into it, it's worth noting, and as I record this, I'm thinking to myself, if the implications of what I'm about to tell you mean that for whatever reason we don't get to move, I'm not sure I'll ever be able to edit this video. I don't think I'll be able to bring myself to do that. I don't think I'll be able to look at this clip again. But here's hoping you see it, which means everything has worked. So on Tuesday we were made aware of the fact that the freehold, we live in a leasehold flat, so the freehold of the entire estate has 2 pending applications on it, and that's not unusual. It's because people are renewing their lease, getting new leases, and therefore it has to go through the land registry and they have to be added. But what that meant was that our buyer couldn't get a up-to-date copy with the current date and time of the freehold title, because that application had not been finished yet by the land registry. The land registry are hugely behind in the last 18 months. They've been inundated with sales and they've been massively affected by COVID. That's not to excuse the fact that this is taking them way longer than it should have done, like well outside of their agreed timescales. So that means we can't do anything more until that's resolved, and there is no timescale. Like, this is the thing I find dumbfounding. They will not say how long that might take. Could be done tomorrow. That'd be nice. Might take 5 months. That would not. And once they've got that and they can ask questions on that, and we start to move towards exchange, if there are more pending titles that appear, and I know there are 2, then we have to wait again. And that cannot be allowed, because then this sale is done, I'm afraid. Because I don't know whether our buyer will want to wait that long. They say they're fine and they're relaxed. I know that the people selling the house to us won't want to wait that long, so we'll lose the house. That's what we've been dealing with for the last 48 hours. The inability to resolve this is the most frustrating thing I think I've ever encountered. There are a lot of parts of it, you know, buying a house, and there's a lot of people involved, and very few of them are sufficiently competent to do their role. I'm going to wait till the sale is complete before I tell you about my solicitor's firm, but to say that I wouldn't recommend them is somewhat of an understatement. Yes, so I found one competent person this morning, and that was the homeowner manager from RHP, who are the freeholder of my building. They think there is a solution. They want to present it to the buyer's solicitor, but I have to get the buyer's solicitor to want to talk to them, which is going to prove difficult, but not impossible. So let's see how this plays out, because at the moment I don't feel good. As it stands right now, my review of 2021 is a terrible year. Only really bested by 2016 and 2020. 21 is when the, you know, chickens came home to roost, or whatever the phrase is. Horrible year. All that nonsense about optimism at the start of the year, it sounded like shit, and it was. I am cautiously optimistic about next year, but there's a lot of things to get through before I feel actually good about it, Omicron notwithstanding. I desperately need a rest, And I was hoping Christmas might be that, and I'm still hopeful, but I'm not as hopeful as I was a week ago about what we can do for Christmas. And I was hoping that actually the first night that we get to sleep in our new house could be that, but I don't know when that's going to be. And so I was hoping we could go on holiday after that, but I don't know when that is either. The real frustration is I feel completely and utterly mentally exhausted, like I have nothing left to give at all, like empty. That's where I've reached, absolute, completely empty. And having done 6 podcasts in 4 days this week, that's it, it's over. I need 3 weeks off minimum at this point to recover, and I've still got to do Christmas shopping in amongst that. So the world doesn't look very bright and sunny to me right now. That doesn't mean I don't think it will again. Just everything feels more difficult and I'm not enjoying it. That's why I've come out for a walk. This always helps. I can do a nice walk, clear my head, and hopefully buy a Christmas present or two. Who knows?